It was just a day before the book launch when the books finally arrived. What a relief.
For those of you that weren't able to be at the book launch, I'm making this recording. You'll see a few different clips. The first one is going to walk you through the location where the book launch was at. And then you'll hear part of the book launch, how it actually happened. But unfortunately, my sound wasn't working. So I am going to record the last half of the launch here in my office. Welcome to They Did the Best They Could launch party. Sorry you can't be here for the book launch, but I thought perhaps I'd show you what you're missing. All the food is going to be here in the kitchen. We'll also have some drinks in another area over here. And then we'll come into what I call the rock room, and this is where I'll talk about the book.
All the events that led up to meeting my father, I would often hear, "You've got to write a book." And I heard that so often that I began to feel that this was an event worth sharing. I felt my story could help others heal their pain, because abandonment has many faces, and one can feel alone even when they're physically present with someone. So that my writing would be close to what occurred on the day I met my father. A few days later, I noted the experience. That was in 1989. And from that time on, more stories unfolded that needed a voice. Choosing the fascinating, colorful stories and pulling them together took years to complete. And I want to acknowledge the people who helped me through that cathartic process. Besides those who helped me with editing and the book, there were also those who helped me stay physically, mentally, and emotionally balanced, which is tricky for me. Writing my memoir opened old wounds, ones that I thought I had healed. In part 2 of They Did the Best They Could, I address how emotions affect the body. And so let me share something that shows how my body reacted as my memories bubbled to the surface. There was a time when my neck began to stiffen, and I had to turn my shoulders to see the traffic on the right. Strange, because I didn't injure my neck. Therefore, I made an appointment with Renee Ostertag, a friend, psychologist, and energy worker. I thought I was there for body work. That was not the case. We started talking about things in our lives and what's been happening, and Renee says, "How are you doing with the book?" And I said, I mentioned an abusive incident that I had as a child, and I was including it in the book, and she said, She sort of intuited that maybe my stiff neck was connected to that situation. She asked me to recall the scene and asked where my mother was standing at the time. I couldn't remember, so I closed my eyes, and I soon envisioned the rose-carved wooden end table, the one that I improperly dusted, white lace curtains around, a floral sofa, and my mom with her hand over my mouth to silence my cries. Then I discovered she was back behind me to the right. Renee guided me through a process that allowed me to regain my power, and my neck began to turn freely that day. 1 year ago, to the day, I got COVID. My symptoms were not severe. I didn't run high fever. I never lost my taste or my smell. I was just exhausted. I lie on my sofa in the living room for 2 weeks, unable to have the strength to do anything else. It's natural for me to put my hands on my heart when I lie down, especially when I'm ill. It's how I channel in divine love. My writings at the time were about so many heartbreaking incidents that I felt this was a time for me to focus on loving and healing my heart. I was diagnosed with COVID pneumonia. And because our lungs surround our heart, I knew my heart was calling out for nurturing. COVID gave me time to do just that. As I processed my childhood sorrow, this book became a labor of love for my readers and for me. Now, once a book is complete, the next thing is to send it to an editor. But in the process, an author's voice might get lost. I was blessed to have people around me who guided me through my editing process, and instead of pushing their ideas at me, we collaborated. About 3 years ago, Nan Cradaville, a retired English teacher in my neighborhood, came over to look at the first chapter. We were sitting in my kitchen, and after reading for a short time, she turned to me with tears in her eyes. Now, any of you that know Nan, you know that she doesn't show her emotions very well, right, Mary? Yeah, it was sort of surprising. Her comment to me was, "This is good writing." It gave me the fuel to keep going, because I knew if I could impress Nan, I could create a book that would touch others. I always enjoyed our time together as she taught me how to get my thoughts grammatically correct. Next, I needed to test my book on a non-metaphysical person to see if my book could reach a larger audience. My friend from Chicago of 40 years, Rob Ann Stein, agreed to give it a go. When I wrote my first 3 books about energy healing and mindfulness, my students showed me where I needed to be more precise. Rob Ann became that catalyst that led me to see where my ideas were not apparent to the layman. Thank you, Rob. At the same time, Sandra Shipley stepped in to polish my words to create a shining professional publication. Because we did not always agree, her guidance sometimes spurred heated discussions. But it never dampened my love and respect for her. Thomas Schwar, knowing this book is my baby, wanted to help me in any way he could. Because of his linguistic skills, he fine-tuned the words, even though sometimes I didn't agree with him. Yet often he was correct. Do you see a pattern here?
Yeah.
First I would hold on to my ideas, but eventually I would hear the wisdom of my friends. Marisa Jones, author, friend, and neighbor, has coached me through marketing process, and I'm grateful for the pathway that she blazed. I'm indebted to my close friend Holly Rowe, artist, photographer, and much, much more, with whom I could bounce around ideas, thus reveal how to express better what I had in mind. As we toiled over pages, my dear friends joyfully gave me hours of their time and filled our days with laughter, tears, and heartfelt discussions. I am eternally grateful for their friendship, knowledge, and willingness to help me through this adventure. Finally, I'm pleased to have a graphic designer like Beth Foster to lay out the book and navigate through the tricky instructions from Amazon, Kindle, and we're still working with Ingram Press. She did a beautiful job. I hope you agree. As they say, it takes a village. And unfortunately, not are all here today, but the ones that are, please be recognized. Here's Maurice. Let's see, how can we do this? Okay, here's, okay, I'm not going to start. Marisa's right here. Thomas, Holly. Who else is here? I think that's it. Yeah.
I would be remiss if I didn't let you know the people who made this event happen. I did not want to celebrate in a hotel. I wanted to be here at my location where the magic happens. I could not have done it alone. So here are some of the behind the scenes people in my village. I had them stand. It was Linda Kleineider, Sandy Kristen, Gary Balch, Steve Green, Lori Cohen, Stacy Kaiser, Maribel Ronquillo, Dio Say, Madison Case, and a legion of angels. The truth began to unfold in 1989, but it took decades for the story to evolve into the book it is today. The memories took me back in time, and though I never dwelled on it, I see that I didn't have close family connections through my entire life. But life didn't leave me standing alone. Instead, I'm gifted with close friends as near as any family members could be. And many of you are here today. In fact, 65 of you were here at the book launch, and I am so grateful for your friendship. They've stood by me when I needed their wisdom and emotional support. They were there with me physically and online when I was ill with COVID. They followed me throughout my life, some for a brief time, others for decades. My appreciation for the people I have met, loved, and been loved by is insurmountable. I am truly blessed. The process of writing the book was not all sad. For one thing, I found a way to get to know my lost family by searching through photos given to me that could express the words that I placed into the book. I spent hours touching up the photos. I would increase the size of the images and remove the scratches and imperfections, and found that as the pixels grew, especially when I was around their eyes, I entered their hearts, especially the family members I never met. As the book evolved, I continued to work with clients and had the usual duties of running a business. But when it came to write, I was delighted. It was my candy for the day. It was never a chore. The book falls into the genre of creative nonfiction. I needed to fill in the blank spaces because I only had smatterings of information and brief stories told to me. That is where the creative part comes in. But I always tell you as the reader when it's my thoughts by saying perhaps, or maybe it could be, or I think it was like this. But you may find that many of the stories are too rich to need any embellishment. I hope that They Did the Best They Could will allow you to recall someone who was mean to you, or hurt you, or made you angry. It could be a friend, a family member, a neighbor, or a coworker. But did you ever consider that at the time, they really did do the best they could? That's what you'll find in the book. You'll find a way to clear and balance those times when things didn't go right and you felt abandoned, mistreated, and unloved. From the stories that unfold in my life and my family's life, I found ways to be compassionate towards the ones who hurt me. In part 2 of the book, you'll see how I did it. I trust the book will give you the strength to do the same. After you've read the book, please leave a comment. I'd love to hear what you thought. Thanks for listening.
You breathe out, I breathe in. We're sharing molecules.